When I think of the word hood, I think of a person, a place, and perhaps even a thing. I'm Sir Creepsta, and welcome to Muhlenberg County Ghost Stories from the Hood. Tonight's tale of terror is entitled Ghost of the Old Lady in the Apron, Reboot. Back when I was a kid growing up in the hood, it was commonplace to see our parents and other grown-up women wearing aprons at all times. I would often see my mama wearing hers whenever she was in the kitchen preparing a daily meal for our family. I would also notice my grandparents doing the exact same thing whenever we went by to pay them a visit. This was typical with all of my friends' parents and their grandparents as well. So, seeing a woman wearing an apron was a very common sight to me. Tonight's tale of terror addresses this exact subject in a supernatural kind of way. So, sit back, relax, grab some snacks, and be terrified by yet another Muhlenberg County ghost story from the hood. The year that I'm about to talk about was somewhere around 1975. At the time, I was a teenager growing up in the hood. I, like many of my family and friends, was addicted to sports of all kinds. Because of this addiction, I'd find myself going to the park on a daily basis, trying to improve upon my skills with my main love, which happened to be basketball. I'd spend hours at a time there just with my cousins and my friends, playing the game after game after game. We'd more often than not find ourselves playing basketball from dusk to dawn, primarily because it was something that we seemed to all have a common genuine passion for. Because our motto amongst all of us kids was that no matter what we were doing or how much fun we were having doing it, you'd better have your butt home before the streetlights came on, or else. So believe me, in order to avoid a good old-fashioned butt whipping, we all gave our best effort to do exactly that. But regardless of how hard you tried to keep this commitment, there were times that you just couldn't, simply because you were having so much fun in what you were doing at the time. Before you realized how late it was, you'd hear the sounds of the streetlights starting to warm up before completely coming on. But before I go any further, please don't forget to smash that like button and also click on the bell icon so that you can stay notified each and every time I drop a brand new video. The story that I'm about to share with you happens to be one of those rare times that we didn't notice how late it had gotten, and the streetlights did what they were designed to do, which was come on when darkness started to set in. Once we heard the sounds of the lights warming up, the basketball stopped bouncing, and we all looked at one another, said our goodbyes, and struck out running towards our respected homes. The house that I lived in at the time was a straight shot from Gish Park once I'd got onto the road that led into the park. All I had to do was cross the street located beside the St. James Church and then continue down it for about 100 yards and I would be home. On this particular night, I recall running up out of the park when I heard my mama's voice calling for me to get my butt home. I would make it home just time enough to avoid a good old butt whipping that had I been a few minutes later would have definitely been the outcome. Once I arrived at home, I went straight into the bathroom to wash up because it was almost supper time and Mom had already had the table set for myself and the rest of the family to sit down and have our evening meal. After sitting down at the table for a few minutes or so, I thought that I heard a faint knock at the door. At first, seeing that I had the appetite for a bear, I simply ignored the knock and proceeded to dig into the fine meal that Mom had prepared for us. But as I sat there chowing down, I could still hear the faint knocks at the door. I took a moment and looked around at my parents as well as my brother and sister, and I immediately noticed that none of them had appeared to even have noticed the knocking at the door as they continued to enjoy their dinner. After being there at the kitchen table for an additional 10 minutes or so, everyone had finished their supper and had taken their place to the kitchen sink for Mama to wash them up. My daddy went to their bedroom, My sister went to her bedroom, and me and my brother likewise did the same thing. I had probably only been in our bedroom for about 5 minutes or so when I once again thought I heard a faint knock at the door. At first, I just ignored it, seeing that no one else had seemed to notice it, and continued to flick through the 5 channels that we had on our television, trying to find something for my brother and I to watch. After getting bored and flicking through the channels, I finally settled for watching some Sanford & Son, seeing that it was a show that my brother and I both enjoyed watching. About midway through the show, yet again, I heard the faint tapping from the front door. Only this time it seemed to have gotten a little louder than the first. So loud, in fact, that I had no choice, seeing that no one else even budged but to get up and go through the door and see who was knocking on it this time of night. I slowly made my way to the living room and then to the door. The front door of our home had a curtain in front of the glass. So I turned on the porch light, pulled back the curtain, and to my surprise, right in front of my eyes was a little old black lady wearing a blue apron, with her face pressed up against the glass, knocking like crazy on the storm door. The look upon her face would have sent chills down anyone's spine. With her lifeless eyes bulged wide open, it was a look of pure evil. Bear in mind, I had never laid eyes on this woman in my entire life, so I just turned around, called out for my mama to come to the door to see who this little old lady was. It only took mama a few seconds to get to the door. While she was heading my way, I turned and started heading back to my bedroom. I'll never forget the sound of my mama's voice when she yelled out to me to bring my black behind back to the living room, saying all along that I need to stop the darn plane because ain't nobody out here on the front porch knocking on the door. At that point, I jumped up off my bed and ran back into the living room, pulled back the curtains, while all along trying to describe to my mama what I had witnessed on the porch only a few minutes earlier. Only proving my mama right, for to my surprise, there was no one on the front porch knocking on the door. This immediately sent chills all over my body, for I knew without a doubt in my mind what I had seen. As night turned to day, I would end up spending the whole time telling myself how I know for a fact that I didn't see a creepy old lady dressed in a blue apron knocking at our front door. The next day was pretty much so a repeat of the day before, which involved me going to the park and playing basketball all day, then making my way home before the streetlights came on. We'd all had our supper, and afterwards me and my brother had settled down in our bedroom to once again enjoy a little Sanford & Son, when out of nowhere I heard a faint knock at the door. The knocking continued for another minute or so, with apparently no one else in the house hearing it but me. As I sat in my room trying to block out the knocking, it only got louder. Only this time I would hear my mama yelling out for someone to go into the living room and see who was knocking at the door. Seeing that no one was going to budge, I reluctantly went into the living room, pulled back the curtain, and there she was, with a wicked face planted against the glass of the storm door. I turned and called out to Mama to come to the door because the old woman in the apron is back again. At this point, I turned and walked away. It didn't take Mama long to get into the living room. Once she did, she pulled back the curtain, and to her surprise, no one was there. I overheard Mama saying to herself that I know I heard somebody knocking too. So out of curiosity, she turned on the porch light, opened the door, and bravely stepped outside. Mama wasn't gone long. When she got back inside the house, she had a strange, emotionless look upon her face. It was as if she had seen a ghost. I asked my mama if she'd seen whoever it was had been knocking at the door, and she quietly said in a very low tone, "No." Then she went on to tell me that after she went outside, that she did a complete walk around the entire house, only to see no one. Then she told me that she walked out to the edge of the driveway, looked across the railroad tracks, and then up the gravel road leading to St. James Church. At that point, she told me that she felt something brush up against her body. At that same time, smelling a strange odor that reminded her of how some of the older people she knew smelled at the time. I didn't know what she meant by that, but I continued to listen to what she was telling me. She said that when she turned around to see what had brushed up against her, that she had saw nothing or no one, This instantly sent bone-crushing chills once again up and down my spine. The following day, while I was outdoors playing pitch and catch with my brother, I would overhear my mama telling my Granny Lou about the events that had went on the past couple of days involving myself and the mysterious old lady in the blue apron, and how she too experienced strange occurrences. Granny would tell my mama, based on the description of the woman I had seen, that it sounded like the lady that had passed away sometime before, and that it was possibly her spirit lost and trying to find its way home to the other side. From that moment on, I would find myself frightened to death the remainder of the time that we would live in the house. Thanks to dear old Dad, we would move away from that house not long after. As time went by, I never saw the old lady in the blue apron again, but it doesn't diminish the fact that she still lurks that property late night. So, if you ever find yourself out late, looking for some few things and a few thrills, take a little trip down to 501 Railroad Street. You just might find what you're looking for, especially if it's a little old lady wearing a blue apron. I'm Sir Creepsta. Until next time, stay terrified.